Good morning and welcome to a special Saturday edition of Topics and Tangents here on Gaming with ADHD, where today I am joined by Sean Roberson and Kevin Siebieda, and I'm probably ruining that even though I've heard it 100 times.
You got it right.
The owner and creative director of Palladium Books and a variety of wonderful role-playing games. But today we're actually going to be talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is currently on Kickstarter to, should I say, bring the game to the public or back to the public? Which do you think is a little more appropriate?
I think back, but also back to, longtime fans and new generation of players.
I was going to say, I mean, it's
kind of doing both, right? So,
yeah, I mean, the game originally came out almost 40 years ago. Like when I was getting the stream set up, it's like, oh, I should look up when the original publication date, and I did not realize it was 1985.
Yeah,
I was all of 9 years old. Kevin is going to hate this part in the fact that I never played it as a kid.
Nothing wrong with that.
So I knew about it. I've bought plenty of Palladium over the years. But yeah, so it's been almost 40 years. So it's like, it's not just, bringing it back to the old fans, because there's a couple of generations now that have not been a part of this. So,
well, and it wasn't always easy to get a hold of, right? I mean, there was no internets back in the day. So when I was a kid, I actually, traded, I think it was some BattleTech stuff or whatever for the RPG, but I didn't know what was out there except for what I saw on the store shelf at Nan's Games and Comics in Houston. Any Houstonian will know Nan's, yeah. So, but it was crazy because I didn't even until way later I didn't even know that transdimensional TMNT existed. It was hard to get a copy. It was very expensive to get a copy of it. Very difficult to find one, and I was consuming lots of stuff, and I'm focused more on riffs myself, and so it's just one of those things where there was stuff that I never played, I never experienced and I was a big fan when I was a kid, right? So that's part of the thing about bringing this back is people that missed out on this too, even if they did know about it or if you've heard about it, like the transdimensional TMNT is kind of a legendary thing in the gaming sphere. Anyone, even fans who are like even just mild Palladium fans, people talk in hushed and hallowed terms about the time travel rules and how they're really great for actually, balance for like a narrative in a role playing game and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff that's happening, to bring, as part of bringing it back, is just making it available.
Well, and making it available to a new audience. We're adding color, we're adding tribute art. One of the things is when I originally designed had the concept for the game, and Eric did most of the actual rules and stuff, but I had set up most of the concepts. And part of that was to make a game that was accessible to comic book readers. So they would pick this up and instantly go, oh, it's the Ninja Turtles. But, oh, look, we can make any kind of mutant animal. And we can do all these other things. And this new Redux is designed so that if you've never read a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic, you've never played a role-playing game, you can pick this book up and enjoy it on several levels. The material, the stats, the artwork, the color work, the adventure ideas, they're just fun to read. And then if you're a gamer, of course, there's all kinds of applications you can do. We've talked to a number of people who loved the game and had never actually played it, but they had made 100 or 200 characters. It's just fun.
It's just fun to make the characters. But we're also bringing in, small balance passes for, the BioE for making mutants, right? So that, we've learned some things, and there were other games that took those systems and moved them forward, like After the Bomb. And so there's some learning that's happened there. So we bring in some of those lessons learned, some of the ones that Kevin and I just have talked about, other things that we wanted to do. I think a lot of people will really enjoy, any Palladium fan, right, will really enjoy the fact that we've got a movement table so that you know how far your character can move on a tabletop. And explicitly describing and clarifying that yes, moving in combat is an action, right? Things like that. So there's a lot of little things that we're trying to clarify, which seem little, but they're big, right?
Right.
Clarify some of the terms around initiative order and different things like that, to make sure that this is the easiest form of the gaming system to jump into, not just a reprint of something from 3 decades ago, right? Because it was a snapshot in time. Anyone who's a big Palladium fan knows that was a pretty formative time period, as the Palladium system learned to do, or grew, expanded to do more things.
Right.
Little tweaks and changes and wording and different presentations shifted. And I think for the better, right? And that's one of the great things about the Palladium system is it's all compatible, and you can play, you can grab a 20-year-old book or a 30-year-old book and pull it out and use it with your Rift's Ultimate Edition or whatever, right?
Right. So hold up, Sean, hold up. Wow, you are like 10 questions ahead of where I was going to be. I'm like, how do I interrupt this? It's such a good flow of consciousness, but I have ADHD. I don't ever have a plan. But you're screwing up the plan. No,
I can't take them anywhere,
Warheads on foreheads. No, just
no, which actually the thing is, like, I like literally all of those I do want to talk about. I actually want to get back. We're gonna come back to them.
Sure, yeah, in whatever order you like. I just want to throw out there that this is exciting, and we're passionate about it.
Yep.
And this is,
I can't tell.
But it's not just like a reprint. This is a true new edition with just presentation values and a lot of value for anyone people who just like role playing or like the Turtles or whatever. Everybody should get a lot of value out of this, and that's one of the things that Kevin and I are supremely focused on. So that's the short answer version.
After your long answer.
Yeah, after a really long answer. Bring it all back around.
All right. So, because I know you guys are probably getting a lot of the same questions. And so I'm trying to come up with stuff that'll be a little bit different, give some people some different background.
That's fine. It's okay.
I'm going to kind of go back and forth with you two on this. So Kevin, first off, was TMNT the first licensed game that you did with Palladium?
Second.
I missed one. What was the other one?
Justice Machine. A dear friend of mine, Mike Gustovich, started his own independent comic company before independent comic companies were the thing to do. So he was a little ahead of his time. So the company ended up, dying after 5 or 6 issues of Justice Machine and Cobalt Blue. But that was my first license. I loved the properties. I loved Mike. And I said, hey, man, I want to turn this into a role-playing game or a source book for Heroes Unlimited. And he's like, yeah, go for it. So we did, and it was nice. And then Turtles was my second license.
I have to show this just because we're all going to laugh. Thank you, Legion of Myth, for saying if Brian doesn't get TMNT over the $1 million mark, Brian is a failure in life. Love you, Brian.
I heard that guy's a troll. Don't worry about it.
A little bit. Okay, so all right. So I'm going to be this is going to be the ADHD going in, but like I said, I've never heard of Justice Machine. Has that all just been rolled into Heroes Unlimited, or is that still a thing somewhere? I've literally never heard of it.
It was brought back in the 80s by Kamiko. And then it's had a couple different owners. Mike Gustovich ended up selling it to a couple different comic book companies. There's a gentleman right now who's looking at possibly kickstarting a relaunch of the Justice Machine with the original Noble Comics comic books and the Kamiko comics. And that's where, I mean, I was an inker. So
A lot of people don't know Kevin was really big into comics before he did.
Yeah, I was big into comics, still am, really.
Right.
And
well, but you don't write and ink and draw as many.
No, I wanted to be a comic book writer and artist.
Sure.
So when Mike started his company in a suburb of Detroit, actually a small city on the west side of Michigan, he brought in a bunch of talent. In fact, it's pretty cool because some of that talent for comic book people included Bill Willingham, yes, the guy who created and wrote Fables for like 200 issues. Bill Reinhold, who went on to do all kinds of great work for Marvel and other companies. Jeff D., who created Villains and Vigilantes back in the day, and then went on to do some comic book stuff. There are a few others who are escaping me right now, but it was a really cool kind of deluxe team of people who went on to do some pretty big things. And so I was involved with that. And like I said, I loved Mike and I loved the Justice Machine. So that was my first license, but it's an obscure IP that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, but now it's also an obscure book that now I want to find. So that's awesome.
It's hard to find.
So then what was it that made you just because so if TMNT was the second, what made you go after Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? You already had Palladium, you already had, I'm assuming Justice Machine did okay. Why go after another license?
Well, again, I'm a comic book guy, and I had been hearing about Turtles and how it was hot, and I could not find an issue number 1 anywhere. I found out years later that they had only printed like 3,000 copies of the first book. So it's a very rare collectible. I mean, there's different editions, second, third, fourth, fifth printings and stuff, but I couldn't get any of those. And then finally, the second issue came in, and I was able to snag a copy of that. And I read it, and I got done reading it, and I said to my wife at the time, this would make a great role-playing game, especially if they would let us create any kind of mutant animal. That'd be fantastic. And the phone rang, and it was some freelance artist who was a fan of our stuff, or writer rather. And the freelance writer said, hey man, have you seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I think it would make a great game. And I'm like, me too. And he's like, it's perfect for Heroes Unlimited. And I said, kinda. I said, I think it's a good companion, but there's so much more we could do with it. And he didn't quite have that vision. Thankfully, Eric Wojcik, who was sort of a collaborator of mine in game design, and when I told him
a little bit,
yeah.
But this was this is really early before Eric had done a lot, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. This was I guess he'd done a couple little things for me. He had contributed to the Mechanoids, and he had
Adventure for Palladium Fantasy.
For Palladium Fantasy RPG. He did that great Tombs of Your City adventure.
Yep.
But Eric and I kept on talking about, we should do this, and we should have rules for that, and we should have rules for this. So when the freelance writer turned in his manuscript and it fell flat, I was actually quite upset because we had already been advertising the product in Dragon Magazine, and I'm like, it's supposed to come out in like, a month or two, and Eric's like, yeah, Kev, I'll help you write it. I'll do the growth steps, and so he would do that, and then he'd call me up and like, Kev, I got ideas for the mutant animal powers. Let me do those too, and I'm like, okay, and he's like, yeah, well, what about the animal psionics? And I'm like, okay, and then let me stat out. Next thing you know, 3/4 of the book was written, and I'm like, Eric, why don't you just write the whole flipping thing, and I'll go through it, I'll tweak it and wherever it needs it. And he's like, yeah, all right. And he banged the thing out in like 4.5 weeks, the fastest Eric ever wrote anything. But we had been talking about it for like 4 months prior to that, and working out like various mechanics that we thought would be perfect for it. So when he had to pull the trigger, he was just primed to do it, and he did. So,
which now I'm going to word it this way, and please don't take offense, but you, Kevin, do have a tendency to be very controlling on the products. The fact that TMNT has Eric's name as the credit on the cover, I mean, I think really does speak to, your trust in him and the way that, you guys ended up working together. Like, one of my favorites is Ninjas and Super Spies, which is another Eric one. So,
I would like to say something there. I'd say Kevin. I think that some people, yes, Kevin will work with anybody who has wants to give something a shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just about. He's gotten more picky about that, and I'm super picky about that.
You really?
But what I'll say about Kevin is that Kevin has a high bar for his standard. He knows what the standard needs to be. He knows what makes a good product. That's why he didn't need to be. And it's not, the funny thing is, I think Kevin isn't very controlling. So he didn't need to rewrite Strangeness.
Right.
But when people say that Kevin's controlling, really he just went in and cleaned up someone else's mess. And I don't say that in meaning to be offensive to anyone who's
sure,
written something that's been heavily rewritten by Kevin. But it's not out of Kevin being controlling. I think it's actually Kevin's very hands off. But if what the final product that you hand to him, if he knows that it needs to really be brought up to another level before it's put into print, that's what Kevin does. And so I push back on, I think that since Kevin isn't really like on the internets a lot and things like that, a lot of times I come out there and try and make sure I set the record straight, because I will say, as someone who worked for him, or not, I worked for Savage Worlds, for Shane Inslee. But as he was the licensor, we were the licensee. Kevin,
I approved everything.
He approved everything, right? And so, I never had any problems, So, and I'm not saying that just to say I'm tooting my own horn. I'm just saying that, and there was other writers involved too. It wasn't just me, right? But I mean, Kevin saw a quality product getting put together, because guess who also has a high bar for product? Shane Hensley and, the team at Pinnacle. So, Kevin didn't feel like he needed to muck with the Savage Rift stuff, right? I think the only thing he gave, a lot more feedback on was, like, say, the art side of things, right? To make sure that depictions were accurate to what he had already established. So I just want to throw that out there for fans that are watching, because as someone who's worked with Kevin closely now on both sides of the aisle for years, I think that sometimes, the
reputation is undeserved.
We're just a little, you shift the perspective on it a little bit to fully understand how Kevin is.
Yeah, I'm all about creating quality, fun product.
Right.
And if it doesn't meet those standards, then it's either out or I'm rewriting it.
No, and I think that's a very, very fair way to put it. It's, sometimes I'm bad at putting the words together. So
no, but you said something that's a very commonly held thought out there. In fact, I had heard the same thing. I remember when I met Kevin at the first time we met in person. We'd been talking for a couple of years, year and a half, 2 years.
Yep.
But when I met him at Gen Con in 2019, Jody Black, Jody and Clint are big. She's the chief operations officer for Pinnacle. Clint, her husband Clint, is a major game designer. Co-designed the Adventure Edition of Savage Worlds with Shane Inslee. She went and took me over and introduced me to Kevin at the Palladium booth. And afterwards, she was like, I came back and we were chatting, and she's like, "So, how was it?" And I was like, "He's great." And she's like, "I know, right?" She's like, "I don't know why anyone has any problems with Kevin. He's a great guy, So, I don't know. I mean, maybe it helped that he liked the stuff that I wrote, but yeah, it's just one of those things that I try and put out there, because it's just like, maybe see it from a slightly different angle. There's a reason people say certain things. Right. But you also have to read into, okay, why are they saying that? Is it because
I rejected their work?
Yeah, you rejected their work. At some level, if you rewrote it, that's a rejection. And not everyone handles that very well. I mean, artists have to learn that in school, right? But a lot of writers, especially in this industry, are very self-taught. And so they don't have that thick skin. It can be really tough for them to absorb feedback, right? As opposed to going and maybe looking at what Kevin did. And the ones that keep working, with us do things like that, right? They take it as constructive. Hey, Kevin put in this time because he liked my idea, as opposed to Kevin put in this time and he's rejecting me, right?
Yeah. My approach is actually very cooperative. I'm very much into teamwork. I had a more than one individual who's involved with the film industry say that I very much remind them of a director, and how I look at things and how I present things and how I wrangle people. And, just depends on the individual and what the project is. But yeah.
Anyways, not to derail the whole conversation. Yeah.
But, if it doesn't hit let's face it, it's like, would you go to George Lucas and say, hey, George, I think we should go in this completely different direction? If what he, and whether George is right or wrong, or whether that guy is right or wrong, it's George's IP.
Well, it's George is paying you, so
right. So George is going to say, look, I want this or that, and either you give it to me or I can't use you,
right?
And it's as simple as that, really.
Well, and then like one of the big things that Kevin wanted was not just a game about the Ninja Turtles, but a game where you could make and create all kinds of mutant animals to live in this world, right? And that's one of the most legendary things and fun things about the game, is being able to create all these other kinds of mutants. But you're right, and Eric Wujcik knocked it out of the park, and just like he did with Ninjas and Super Spies and a lot of other stuff. I mean, Eric's just a legendary,
which was also my
writer
idea.
And designer. So yeah, but I mean that's the collaboration, right? And so that's one of the things that we're so excited about is, I mean, as the first book that I read cover to cover, and role-playing game book that I ever personally owned and read cover to cover and played. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Eric Wujcik, and it's interesting coming back decades later. Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting coming back decades later and doing a Redux edition, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like, are you walking over a grave or treading on hollow ground? I mean, we really think, it makes us just think very deep. I try not to be like paralyzed by that, you know what I mean? But we really try and find that are we being true to the spirit of what Eric created, without being like slaves to the past.
Right. Real quick, and folks, I am highlighting other questions, so don't think that I'm ignoring a lot of the questions that have gone by when I highlight this. Legion of Myth says, Kevin controls my live streams. He sends handles to my door with a manila folder of approved questions and puts an applause sign in front of me. Then there's the gentleman with the cattle prod. I love that there's all this cross-pollination between our streams. But so going back to when you went after the license, at the time, Ninja Turtles wasn't what it is today. We've had like 5 different television series, variety of different movies. So you almost had
games, arcade games,
yeah.
One box.
What was it like being, or what were the creators' response to you essentially creating whole cloth more of their property?
They were totally open to it. It was pretty funny because I think, looking back, like Sean was saying, oh, it's hollowed ground, and the TMNT are 40 years old next year. So much has happened. The whole world knows what a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle is. That's astonishing. But back then it was startup company owner Kevin Siebieda and startup owner comic book company, Mirage Studios with Kevin and Peter. We were all pretty green. We were all into our art and our work and creating something cool and fun. So we really approached it very much on that kind of level. And I was a fan of their stuff. They liked my ideas. Things flowed back and forth very quickly. I mean, they were so green at the time, and we hit it off like instantly. That Peter Laird said, well, Kev, your company's been around a few more years than ours. Why don't you write the contract and we'll look it over, and if it looks fine, we'll sign it. And I did, and they did. it was pretty informal, and it was just fun. I mean, they also were kind of visionaries, so they had, when I said, look, I would really like you guys to do the artwork, and man, it would be really cool if you could do a special brand new 10-page comic strip for the game, so that it would appeal to comic book readers as well as gamers. They're like, yeah, sure, Kev. And again, they're a startup company. They needed money too.
Yeah, they're working out of their garage at the time.
And so, they agreed to do the art. They did the artwork for that and TMNT Adventures and TMNT Guide to the Universe. And then afterwards, they were collecting up a bunch of good artists. And they're like, hey, Kevin, we're too busy to do the art, but maybe you use some of our artists. And I said, yeah, I like this Jim Lawson guy. Looks pretty cool. And it's like, and even though he didn't appear in any of the Turtle stuff, I also hired Eric Talbot to do some work in some of my fantasy books. So, it was just sort of this, a bunch of artists and writers having fun. And I think it shows in the work.
And for people that are new to it, I mean, that's one of the cool things. If you're a big, Ninja Turtles, Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, the creators, a fan of their art, that's one of the cool things about these books is that each collection has 8 to 10 page comic strip that you're not going to see anywhere else, right? And also 30 plus mutant animals in each one, including stuff like mutant dinosaurs drawn by Jim Lawson, right? So I mean, it's really cool though, because it's going to be all this art that is at once familiar, but also kind of old school and kind of legendary. I mean, it's really neat combination that really would surprise people, because it all happened before Turtles really blew up.
Yep.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, the fact that, like, to me, the role-playing game is more a product of those original comics,
right?
As opposed to, like, for me, my entry into the Turtles was the cartoon. So
right, there was no cartoon yet, right? So
yeah. So the art style is very different. It's much darker. It's much grittier. As opposed to the more kid-friendly aspect that we got later on.
Right.
So playing off of the past, I'm going to switch over for a specific question for Sean. You had mentioned that that it was your idea to go after the Ninja Turtles license, that Paramount didn't come to you guys, and
right, it was our idea, correct?
Okay, so it's been over 20 years since the Ninja Turtles license expired. My understanding is it expired around 2000 originally. Am I correct on that, Kevin?
I think it was more like around 2004, but yeah, close enough.
Okay, so about 20 years. Why bring a game that hasn't been published in 20 years back?
Well, so the funny thing is, when I was working on riffs for Savage Worlds, I was just super stoked to be working with the great people at Pinnacle and on riffs in any way, shape, or form. And then just ecstatic when Shane Hensley asked me to be the line editor and do the second edition of it. People already started asking me about the Ninja Turtles, and I'm like, dude, I'm not Palladium Books, like.
Yeah.
And right. Well, I had no idea. Kevin completely floored me when he asked me to become his business partner, share the company and build it into the future, right, and take it into the next generation. After Kevin asked me to join him at Palladium, I was still in shock, I think, but I don't think I'd even really gotten to sleep yet again, because it took me a couple of days to be able to sleep after that. And I was very confused that he wanted me to be his business partner, and not just like an employee or something, right? But I was excited, but one of the first things I talked about was that, because people have been asking me and trying to, get me to go after Ninja Turtles, and so because I'd actually started my own company. I never made anything, but I had just launched, incorporated my own company, and I was going to start doing my own products. And so, yeah, one of the first things I said to Kevin was, "Hey, what about Turtles?" And Kevin's like, "Well, let me catch you up to speed on what my negotiations have been over the past 10 years." Right. So it was one of those things that, that Viacom, Nickelodeon, had reached out to Kevin in 2015. There had been some other discussions in 2019, but the timing wasn't right. And so when I joined, I was super stoked about it, though. And so we decided that, yes, when the timing was right, we would strike. And so we did. And at the beginning of this year, and 10 months of negotiations later, that I don't think Kevin or either of us would have survived individually. We came out the other side with a really just kind of like fantastic deal with worldwide rights, and even the ability to do miniatures and dice, and the miniatures is Kickstarter exclusives. I mean, there's a lot of things like that, just it was because they're not used to our niche market. They're used to toys and t-shirts and lunch bag boxes and stuff like that. So they were really great to work with, but yeah, it took a lot of effort, and we're really happy where it is now. But yeah, it was one of those things that was kind of interesting, the timing. And we knew we have The Last Ronin, right, which is amazing, by the way, if you're an old school Ninja Turtles fan of the comics, or just a Turtles fan. But that has spawned multiple successor comics and spin-offs, and those have been really successful. But at the beginning of the year, we didn't know that they were going to be successful, right? We didn't know they were going to announce a Last Ronin God of War style video game. We didn't know about Mutant Mayhem, right? The new movie that's blockbuster essentially for the Turtles. And so it was funny, as the negotiations were moving forward, Turtles was gaining more and more momentum, and we're like, holy shnikes. So it's been, and then the response from the fans has been astounding. I mean, we cleared $250,000 in 4 hours. I mean, that's an ecstatic fan response. So yeah.
Okay. So then with that, you decide to go back after the license. Obviously, timing is finally working out. Now, Palladium is known for its game system effectively remaining unchanged. I realize it's not unchanged, but the core is essentially unchanged.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Why do just a revised edition instead of maybe trying something new, since game design has changed a lot in the last 40 years?
That's an easy question.
Yeah.
Because the fans have kept asking for it.
Yeah, when we talk to the fans, it's the number one thing we get asked. I mean, we're talking every week we get emails, help desk tickets. When we go to Gen Con, the number one thing people ask us, more than everything else combined. Okay, we combine everyone asking about Rifts, everyone asks about Nightbane, everyone asks about mechanoids or splicers or whatever. The Ninja Turtles far outweighs that, and the number one thing they say is, I don't want something completely different. They're like, I want the classic game back. Can you bring the classic game back? Right? And so with this, that was our big focus is, and for me, and Kevin, there is a legacy that Eric Wujcik has left. There is something really special about this game, right? This is my original book, right? So, there is something really special about it, and we wanted to do it justice with kind of a super deluxe or redux, right? Like a I don't know, even beyond a director's cut, right? And so and in full color with all the bells and whistles, and it, because it is a cultural phenomenon. I mean, that's part of the thing, is Kevin Eastman basically insisted on painting a new cover. Sophie Campbell insisted on painting a cover. She's doing the IDW Comics run right now. And we have like 30 artists, including people like Ben Bishop, and Freddie Williams, and
Sophie
Mike Campbell,
Ruth,
and I mean, there's so many.
Peter,
Larry Elmore,
David Peterson.
Doing tribute art because they want to it's for them, this full page color art, that is their tribute. They want to leave a tribute, and maybe also a lot of them are writing statements that we're going to be including in the books, because it really is that special. So that's why we focused on this. But at the same time, we wanted to make sure that, yes, we're very familiar that game design has changed and evolved. A lot of people may or may not notice I studied game design at the University of Texas in Dallas, and it's there's not that many game design degree tracks out there, and that's one of the great ones, as far as I'm concerned. And I know what all the modern stuff is, right? I'm very aware of that, and so we want to bring that kind of. A lot of it is, little things like that modern turn of phrase or language, or the way that people are used to absorbing numbers. Like usually we say things like, nowadays you say, 5 or higher, not as long as it isn't 4 or lower or 4 or worse, right? So there's little phrases like that help it be just a little quicker for people to pick up on, because it's part of the modern parlance that's become common in tabletop gaming. So that's kind of our drive on that. And I don't know if Kevin has anything else to say.
Well, I mean, I can see the question there asking, is it the same rule set or have you made changes? And as Sean just said, there's minor little tweaks and cleanups and improvements.
Same rule set with clarifications.
But it's very much the same rule set. And again, part of our motivation was, it's as much a tribute to Eric Woodjick, who is one of my dearest friends, as it is to Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird or Turtle fans. It's a tribute to his genius. It's one of the most beloved games we've ever produced, and that people want to see the original game. And that's when I sat back and went, and I thought about it for a long time, because Nickelodeon had reached out to me in 2015, and the desire to do the Turtles had never really ever gone away. And so, it was like, how can we elevate this? How can we make this feel new? And when you guys see the colors, I mean, just the color work alone makes it feel like a brand new book and gives it a new wow factor.
And I see one of his questions is, have you toned down the crunch a bit for modern audience? And I think there's a lot of ways you can interpret crunch, right? And some people will call Palladium a crunchy system. I personally don't think. I think maybe it's crunchy if you're trying to approach it from a modern perspective. Back in the day, it was like it struck gold with a lot of beginning gamers, right? I got this book when I was like 10, so I played Rifts when I was a young teenager, right? So, and a lot of people got Rifts when they were young teenagers. This Robotech when they were young, and so it really struck a chord as something that was very approachable at the time. Now, because things are organized and phrased differently these days, and there are advances in game design. But this has a lot less crunch, and that everything should be a lot easier to find. It's a lot more consolidated. It uses a lot of modern terms, we're trying to make everything as smooth and easy to get into as possible. And like I said, and there are little things that it's not a reboot of the system, but adding and clarifying. Yes, moving in combat is an action, right? This is how far you can move depending on your speed, in inches if you're using a tabletop, right? Or in yards or meters if you're doing more of a narrative game.
Yeah, and is that a rules change? Not really. It's a rules addition. So for those who want to have it, there's a little chart.
It's a clarification.
This is how it works.
Yeah, it's a clarification. It's an update.
I've always my goal has always been to reach the broadest audience and the largest age group, possible. So I can tell you for decades now, when I meet people, I run into people who. Which, I'm 67, I'm used to it now. But when I was like in my 40s or 50s, I'm like, everyone's like, oh yeah, I love your stuff. I started playing with Ninja Turtles when I was in high school. And I'm like, oh.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that the Palladium system was designed to be a narrative game, not a tabletop tactical simulation. And that's become much more common in modern gaming, right? Mm-hmm. As well as there's a lot of different things that people would assume back in the day. So, which now, you need to lay out more explicitly. So it's just a little bit, there are some of those things that we're trying to round off those edges, so it's just really approachable for everybody. And straddles, easily straddles, hey, this is kind of low hanging fruit. We make this and this clarification. Now it's a lot easier to use on a tabletop.
Right. So
there is no mega damage. And no giga damage. Right? No clad damage.
No plaid. No, and I think I do agree that I think that that keeping, like, especially for this release, making sure that the game is kept as close to the original as possible. The fact that it's been out of print so long, the fact that Eric has passed in the time, since the license expired. Even if you wanted to do a quote unquote second edition or new edition, something much more revised than it is now, I think at least doing this project is important just from that perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah, we totally agree. Yep.
Yeah. So that I do think is cool, especially the number of people that have gotten involved. Like Larry Elmore wasn't involved in the Ninja Turtles originally, was he?
No, but it's influenced his family and his kids, right, and his grandkids. So he wants to be a part of this, and he's old friends with Kevin. He couldn't turn Kevin down. So when Kevin reached out to him, and that's that again. That's another tribute to the influence of it, right? We and the other thing that's fun is we're doing 2 full color hardcover books, so you can get all of it at a very low. I mean, compared to going and trying to get it now, it would be very expensive to go get these. But now you're going to be able to get it in just 2 volumes. You got all of it, everything that ever came out for TMNT, the RPG, all the source books. You've got it all there and integrated together.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So let's actually switch over to Kickstarter.
And I will say, by the way, just to throw it out there, I mean, if we went and re-released these books, in a similar perfect bound format, it would be a lot more expensive than the $50 per book that we have in the Kickstarter. And this is the best price point anyone's going to be able to get these books at. After this, this is not the retail price. This is a special Kickstarter price. So if you want to get in on this, get in now. By the way, anyone watching, if you have any friends that you think would be interested in it, that haven't heard of it, please tell them, because this is the time to get in.
I will admit, I understand that it would be more expensive, but I actually kind of like the idea of just a straight up reprint edition, like no tweaks, no changes, because like I was literally looking at okay. All right, everyone, most everyone I think watching knows that I call myself horribly inexperienced in role-playing games, even though I have been buying them since the late 80s. And I'm trying to put together like a Rifts one-shot. And I was looking at all of my books, and it's like, I know they've got this in hardcover, I've got this in hardcover, but the rest of my Palladium books aren't in hardcover. They're all in that perfect bound format. Right. So being like, even if it doesn't have the edits, it doesn't have the revisions, personally, I do think that would be cool just to be able to fit that into the shelf.
The closest thing we're doing to that is the black, white, and red edition. Yeah. So if you want something that's more minimalistic about the full color presentation, the red mask instead of the 4-color Turtles masks, that's the edition to go take a look at if you want something more of that retro vibe to it.
I'm just saying, in the future, you could consider doing both. Anyways,
yeah, it'll be these books are not cheap to print in small quantities, and that would really fracture the market for us.
Okay,
it would be
unwise.
Make it impossible. It would be ridiculously priced if we did it that way.
Huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I'm assuming that's probably like partly due to like the license, things like that.
I mean, it's part of just printing books.
Just everything about it.
And think about it, if you fracture your own market for 2 books that you put out there, then you're going to sell less copies of that while you're selling more copies of something that's more expensive. But those print runs are also more expensive because you're not selling them at the numbers. Trust me, there's a lot of business and math and print runs. the volume that you print at makes a huge difference. That's why some people don't understand why, we need to do a Kickstarter for this. To be able to get you all the different bells and whistles. But also just so that we can do a real solid, accurately projected print run is massive for us on a business sense. So Kickstarter or crowdfunding, like BackerKit and stuff like that, is very helpful to publishers. That's why virtually everybody that isn't, Wizards of the Coast does it.
Yeah, I mean that's actually essentially the question that I was about to ask, is why you guys went with Kickstarter when the books have essentially been done for the last 40 years. Obviously you're making changes, you're making some updates, but why the Kickstarter route instead of, oh well, we've already got a fan base, we could probably just go with it anyways?
It doesn't work like that. Yeah. I mean, some of it's so that you can get the dice, so that you can get the miniatures. Part of it is that's how we're able to negotiate the deck of cards, all these little bells and whistles,
the
mutagen green foil editions, right? I mean, all of that becomes possible because of Kickstarter, literally just because of our licensor and what we're able to negotiate. But then if without the Kickstarter, there's no way we could do the black, white, and red edition. And the other thing is that Kickstarter is also really important for making people aware of something. And that's huge. And you might say, oh, well, TMNT, it sells itself. No, it doesn't. It doesn't magically create magical awareness. And so, like, for instance, Titan Robotics, the Kickstarter, you would think, oh, did all the hardcore fans bought it? No one's going to buy it when the book goes into print. Quite the opposite. There's a lot more awareness about Titan Robotics because we ran a successful Kickstarter on it. So it actually supercharges the sales after the Kickstarter. So this is you can go ask all the other mid-sized RPG publishers this question. I've been there. I've been on panels where they talk about it, right? And I was sitting there talking. There was Shane Hensley, or I think it was Shane or Clint, and then there was John Wick. There's all kinds of people there. And I don't remember the guys that did like Delta Green, and the guy worked on Shadowrun. It's a very established fact that Kickstarter is crowdfunding, because Kickstarter is just like Coca-Cola, right? It's the most well-known brand of crowdfunding website. But yeah, crowdfunding is huge and makes a huge impact on campaigns. And there are other things too, like with Titan Robotics. We upgraded the quality of the poker cards, right? Because we had the number of pre-orders where it suddenly made, logistical sense on the publishing side, on the printing side, right? That because there are massive economies of scale that are super important, and it's just in some ways it's actually just really basic market concepts and forces that really make something like a crowdfunding campaign shine. And it's very effective.
Got it. Okay.
Also, if we hadn't done a Kickstarter, do you think Forbes would have run an article about this book being released? Do you think Screen Rant and comicbook.com? I don't think that would have happened, right? The Kickstarter is also a chance for fans to just show their excitement and be a part of something exciting, and that's really cool.
Yeah. No. Exactly. I like. So I have a degree in business, and so I will absolutely get into the weeds on the business side. I think we might lose all of our viewers, though, which is
right.
Going that direction.
No, but I understand you're asking a legit question that a lot of fans have, and so it doesn't bother me to answer these questions without getting into like the weeds. And I can talk dollars and cents, but I don't want to bore everybody. But trust us, it's not just us. This is a solid business move, right? And it's the best thing for it in the brand in total, right?
Right. So, with that said, now considering that the Kickstarter is somewhat complicated in levels and add-ons, like if you get this particular pledge, well, then you get this particular batch of like art prints and things like that. So, I'm not going to ask specifics because we can leave all of that in the past, but what have you guys learned from past Kickstarters to make sure that this is going to be successful, considering all those complications?
I think that the big thing is work with people who have established track records. Yeah. That's
work with other reliable companies, get your quotes, get accurate quotes.
Yep.
Before you've ever launched a Kickstarter.
And focus on what's in your wheelhouse. Be very careful as you expand your wheelhouse. I mean, we're working, for instance, with Transperfect Gaming on the miniatures, right? And those guys, I mean, they have years and years of experience. The specific artists that we're working for Games Workshop, Fantasy Flight Games, I forget some of the other ones.
Hasbro. I mean,
Hasbro.
Transformers.
Yeah. So I mean, these are sculptors who have a pedigree, right?
Right.
And yes, video game miniatures, video game modeling and miniatures are very different, right? But that's why the great thing is the guy that's heading it up is the most experienced. The project manager essentially is the guy that's the most experienced with working with tabletop miniatures, and so that's where we get a lot of value. We're getting really solid stuff. It takes time because of all the different people as an officially licensed product that need to see the sculpts and approve them and all this stuff. But it's been going very smoothly. Right. Once we're happy with what it is, and I used to work for Games Workshop for a couple of years as a store manager, so I'm familiar with that side of gaming too. And so by the time we bring it to our licensors, things usually go pretty smoothly. It just takes a little bit of time, but that's why we're focusing on stuff like that. That's why we're working with really established partners like Fanroll for the dice. Right. So this is our we haven't done dice before here. I mean, I've worked on projects that have dice when I was with Pinnacle, but it's the first time Palladium's doing dice. So working with Fanroll to do a lot of the really cool exclusive, and again, these are Kickstarter exclusive dice sets. So it's we want to make sure that we're putting out super high quality products and partnering with people that have very established track records of success after success after success.
Awesome. So actually, now this actually came up a while back. So remember back to like the licensing with Eastman and Laird originally. That's when this question came in, but I think it's relevant here as well. So what is the dynamic working with Paramount on the licensing? Are they approving everything? Are they generally hands off? Are they all the cooks in the kitchen and we're looking to stab somebody at times?
We only have positive things to say about working with Paramount. Yeah,
they do,
because that's what our lawyer said. No, I mean,
they do approve everything, right? But
sorry,
I think they actually have a surprisingly good understanding of what fans want. And you always hear stories about these big evil corporations who don't give a shit about the consumer or the fan base, and that's not true. That's at least not been our experience with Paramount. They are very aware of what fans want, and they want to deliver it just like we do. So we're always getting good suggestions from them, and little tweaks. It's a big bureaucracy, so unfortunately they can be a bit slow at times with approvals, and sometimes again as a big corporation, our main guy isn't necessarily the guy to do approvals. For example,
for certain things,
the toy division has to also approve the miniatures, and then sometimes it's like, the advertising division has to make sure the packaging works and stuff, and that just it's all different layers that can slow things down a little bit.
In the end, though, I think our experience has been really positive for
absolutely
the end product, right? Yeah. So.
It was their idea for us to do the black, white, and red edition, which my knee-jerk reaction was, "What?"
Yeah, that was like,
"No, wait, that'll be great." That's kind of a new trend in comic books these days. And
I noticed when we were we would talk to fans about this. A lot of them would ask me, "Oh, it's not going to be what if I want the old black and something like the old black and white books? Yeah. What about the red bandanas?" And we're like, "Hey, maybe we can have our cake and eat it too." Yeah. That suggestion may have. More, be a better suggestion than we realized at knee-jerk reaction, right? So, because we're kind of like, huh? But that's cool. So in the end, I think it's been really positive.
And by the way, I want to make it clear, Paramount didn't say you need to do it. They said, have you considered doing this?
Right.
And we considered it and said, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I was like, the next week we were like, you know what? That was a really good idea. Yeah.
when the licenser, asks if you've considered it, if you don't, that might not be the best licensing option to go.
Well, it has to make sense for us, and they understand it too. So, I mean, there have been some suggestions that we've said, no, we're not going to do that. And they've been good. They've been good about it.
Oh, and some of the things, I mean, like I will say,
we're all on the same team.
Yeah, we're definitely all on the same team. And one of the things I will say, you mentioned like exclusive print sets and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, they're exclusive and they're rewards for backing at a certain level. And that's, if you want the reward, you got to back at that level. And it is exclusive. Like Kevin and I like to be straight shooters. We don't want to throw around terms like that. And then, and then you can go buy it now. Right. And, we're not trying to jerk people's chains or anything. That's what it is. And there's intentional marketing reasons for that. There's part of it is these things are possible because, as Kickstarter exclusives, otherwise we wouldn't never be able to do that. Right. So it really, a lot of this really is about working with our licensors to make sure we can do as much cool stuff as possible. Yeah. And, art prints are a pretty big deal.
Well, and because we're fans,
minis are a pretty big deal.
We're fans of role playing and the Turtles and Kevin Pete, and we know what other fans want because we know what we want, and so we tried to provide it. Like I noticed while we were talking, there were a couple of comments that popped up with one guy saying, "I love those black, white, and red covers. They're my favorites." By the way, the colors are by an artist named Jeremy Caldwell, and he did a great freaking job. Yes. We were blown away when we saw them. And then someone else made a comment about, I love the covers Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird are working on together, which are for the Mutagen Green Foil editions. And that's why we do variants as well, because everyone has different tastes, and some people, as much as they might like one, they might prefer another. And that's the cool thing is, once the campaign is done and you're in backer kit, our backers can, do add-ons. They can upgrade their pledge if they decide that's the way they want to go. They're going to have options.
Yeah. And if you want to wait to add something, I mean, that's fine. The pledge $1 or pledge in for a book. And then if you want to wait till you can see the rest of the miniature sculpts, that doesn't hurt my feelings at all. Right. But hey, you know what? We got the rights to do the miniatures later in the game, right around the time we were going to sign the contract. And, we still wanted to, launch the Kickstarter. So, so please just bear with us. We're doing our best to make, everyone happy, right? The licensor, the fans, right? And there's no harm, no foul if you decide you don't want something or you want to wait till you can see, the preview of something but it has to be approved. It's all officially licensed products. But what I can tell you is it's all real high quality. So I hope that everyone knows that we are true fans ourselves and working to make sure everything's going to just be as cool as it can be.
Okay. So with that, what would you say has been the biggest challenge in doing this Kickstarter?
I don't know if there's been any really big challenges. I mean, juggling everything and getting the Kickstarter up and running, that was pretty colossal.
The time frame was the most challenging part of it.
Yeah.
Just because usually we like to have, all our ducks in a row. And so with negotiating the contract, but then it was important for us and our licensors to launch this year, right? So we only had so much time to promote it before the Kickstarter actually launched. And then, right. So that's been challenging just because it's been a lot of like getting things
done quickly
and during the Kickstarter, right?
Yep.
That normally I would have
3 months to work on it and have it all set up.
With Titan Robotics, we were ready to go, right?
Yeah.
So that's been the most challenging part, but
And the rest of it, we're like, we're big kids. So, I mean, it's been a blast every time we see a miniature sculpt, even if it's not right. We're like so excited to see it brought to life in 3D. You know, it's like, this is great. Just change this, change that, fix this.
Right.
We love it. It's wrong.
We love it, but these
Exactly.
6 things need to be updated. Yeah. And the cool thing is the guy that's, because there's sculptors, and then there's the project
director,
the art director. Yeah, not sort of a project manager, but more of an art director, right?
Yep.
But he usually already has like listed the 4 or 5 changes that need to happen, and we're like, and he sends it to us. He's like, "What do you think?" And we're like, "Yep." Every once in a while, I'll be like, "Oh, and what about this little thing?" Or something. Ken will be like, "What about that?" But in general, he's been really on point. The guys at Transperfect are just the guys and gals are awesome. So we've been really happy working with them. And then challenging things like Kevin Eastman saying, "I want to paint a cover." Okay. But he's a busy man, right? So as soon as we get something from Kevin Pete, I'm putting it in for approvals with Paramount. It's like, and flagging it and letting everybody know, so that we can get stuff rolling as fast as we can.
I can tell you that
to get it back to the
cover,
fans.
the Eastman cover, we have seen the color rough for it, and it's freaking phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, it blew us both away. I saw it first and went, holy moly. And then I said, Sean, have you seen it? He pulls it up. He's like, holy moly.
Yeah.
Like,
or something more of an expletive, but it's just, and getting that, making sure we're good to send that out, making sure that all the text that goes, because the official updates, the Kickstarter page itself, what do you call it? The press releases, those all have to be approved, by our licensors. So it's a little different than when we can just kind of shoot from the hip in the comments section.
Yeah.
So hopefully fans can understand that and be patient with that.
And then it's been a hoot working with Kevin Pete again. It's been great.
I never worked with him before, and they're freaking cool. So
it's been a blast working with people like Sophie and my old pal Freddie Williams and Ramon Perez and
Mike Majestic.
He's
doing the colors,
Jeremy Caldwell and all these folks. I mean, we're working with
Luis
legends.
Antonio Delgado.
Yeah,
he did the colors for Last Ronin.
He's also done the colors for us for the transdimensional TMNT.
Yeah,
section.
for the Trans D.
Because originally our main artist, Mike Majestic, was going to do it, and then Sophie wanted to do it in the worst way, and we were like, okay, so we carved it out for Sophie. And then poor Sophie reaches out, and she's like, Kev, I'm trying to get to my last issue of the TMNT. I've got this commitment, that commitment. Are you going to be angry if I can't do the colors? We're like, no, we don't want you to kill yourself to do this.
She's only going to do an intro adventure, a variant cover, and 2 art tribute.
On top of all of her regular
right
work. So we're like, no, Sophie, we get it. It's all good.
She's just such a huge fan of Jim Lawson. She really wanted to ink that or color that. Yeah. Sorry.
And then it was awesome reaching out and saying, hey, the guy who's the master behind, the colors and Last Ronin, would you do our stuff? He's like, oh, sure.
Yeah.
We're like, oh,
yeah. He's a professional. All these guys have been just great professionals.
So the stupid fanboys ourselves, it's been amazing to work with all these wonderful people, half of whom I haven't even mentioned. But they're just great to work with. Heck, we just got the colors from Mike Ruth, whose work we weren't particularly familiar with, and his pen and ink drawings blew us away, and then his colors come in. We're like, oh my god, this guy's phenomenal.
He found out because he was at a convention. He does Turtles comics and other comics, and he was at a con, and he was chatting with Freddie Williams, and Freddie's like, oh, you've played have you played the RPG or whatever? And he was like, I'm a huge fan of the RPG. I mean, just people coming out of the woodwork that are fans of the
I'd love to do a tribute page. And Freddie's like,
can you let him know for me? Yeah.
Like, the more the merrier, man.
All right. So then, okay, real quick. I hate to do this. I have to step away for just a moment, but I've got Bear here. Sean's met Bear. Kevin.
Hey, Sean.
Kevin,
Hi,
Bear.
Kevin.
Bear.
Okay,
You don't look too grisly.
I literally hate that I have to do this, but before I go, I will start off with a question. Bear can moderate until I can get back.
The Holy Roman Empire was neither holy nor Roman.
Not really an empire. Discuss.
So what are you guys most proud of for this Redux edition? So I am listening, but I have to step away. So I'll be right back.
What are you most proud of?
That's sort of a tough one. I mean, we're proud of everything. We're so excited about bringing it back in the first place, and at an elevated level. I think I'm most proud of getting Kevin Siebieda and Peter Laird to do contributions to it. I mean, they're both doing the art for those covers. That's amazing. And I don't know, working with Sophie has been a dream. So I mean, those are two of my big ones. And I guess number 3 for me would be being able to re-release this tribute to Eric Wujcik. I mean, Eric was a true genius, and Turtles is arguably his most famous and well-known creation. And it's wonderful to be able to bring it back for people to discover Eric's genius and have fun playing the damn game. It's just a fun game.
Yeah, I think so. I'll say, just so that people kind of understand, I mean, while I'm taking the lead on this project, I mean, Kevin's been instrumental in getting all these things organized and reaching out to and coordinating with tribute artists. And I'm just really proud of him for that. I mean, that's pretty cool because it's seeing his influence, come right back around. And a lot of these people, they found the Turtles, or they found role playing or storytelling through his games. Right. And so that's been really neat. But personally, the thing that there's 2 things I'm really proud of. One is working with Mike Majestic on the interior colors.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, that's just really elevated things. And you'll see it in the final product. And along with that, the new remastered layout, the rules clarifications, the updates there. I'm really proud of that. And I know that's something that we're just starting to show off now in some backer kit emails, and I think we have something going up to Drive Through RPG this weekend. And I'm going to be adding some stuff to the main Kickstarter page and the next update we do, which should be very soon. But yeah, those are things that I'm most proud of. So really excited to be able to have my fingerprint on that, and I'm proud of the work that I'm doing. So,
and I think the takeaway
that everyone else is doing too. It's really cool to see it all come together.
I think the takeaway from what Sean has just said is that, and people don't really get to see, is that he and I are just this really dynamic team.
Okay.
This project I don't think could have been done by just him or just me, or we could have, but would it be everything that it's going to be? No.
And in this time frame, especially with the negotiations, like we said, took a little while, and we really wanted to launch now. And it would have been impossible for me or Kevin, I think, to have come to the great deal that we did with our licensors in the first place. Mm-hmm. And neither of us could have made this the success that it's been alone. And it's been amazing because one of my big goals has been to take as much as I can off of Kevin's plate since I joined him at Palladium as his business partner. But now, with this, it's so funny because Kevin is he's like, Sean, you don't need to worry about it. This thing happened, but you know what? Don't worry about it. It's like, it's pretty cool because he's just trying to take stuff off of my plate so that I can focus on the Kickstarter and approvals and coordinating stuff. Exactly. But it's been really cool because, some people have noticed we finish each other's sentences a lot. We have, kind of this little Vulcan mind meld going on. And it's pretty neat to have that kind of cooperation going on where it's it feels really seamless. And a lot of times I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm super stressed out. And Kevin comes in and goes, hey, by the way, don't worry about XYZ. I've taken care of it.
You're doing a great job on what you're doing. Stay focused.
Or when I've gotten burnt out and I'm just like, Kevin, I got to go crash. We've been working for weeks and weeks without a day off. And, and then Kevin's like, no worries, I'm high energy. But when he's like, oh, Sean, I'm feeling a little under the weather. I'm like, no worries. I've got like 3 cups of coffee in me, So that's been kind of fun too, tag teaming the the overall administrative kind of aspect
Yeah.
of
So fun question then is, I'm assuming Kevin's Batman and you're Robin in this equation. Is that what we're saying? Or are you Batman and he's Alfred?
Well, we're definitely a dynamic duo. I think we're more like, I don't know, Captain America and Tony Stark, or,
Ooh. Like
Captain
that.
America and the Black Panther, or something more along those lines.
Fair.
Because I think we're pretty equal and pretty strong alone, and then you put us together, and it's like, better watch out.
Yeah, it's one thing that has been really cool being Kevin's business partner is he doesn't treat me like the junior business partner. He treats me as the equal, and it's so funny. I was doing some of the rules updates and clarifications, and I was like, Kevin, can I read this to you? And he's like, Sean, I trust whatever you wrote. And I'm like, well, I just want to make sure it's clear and I didn't misphrase something, or there's not a slider, maybe a little more clear turn of phrase. And because we proofread each other's stuff all the time, right? Yeah. And so, but it was really cool that he's like, hey, I completely trust whatever you've done. But at the same time,
it's good that you have that.
Yeah, it is, and
it's a powerful technique for writing. So let me get into something more interesting than just, hey, you two are awesome and love each other and work well together. That's clear. That's evident from anyone who's talked to the both of you that you function very well together as a team.
Yeah.
So let's take it to the next step. What's blue sky for you after TMNT? What is the next, the mountain you want to climb next? What is it?
I don't know if we can really talk about it.
You could tease. You could tease. I mean,
I think that and I'll actually say something that's even more immediate is we've really been working hard to update Palladium's processes and a lot of things moving forward. So I know that people will say, well, we want faster, we want more releases faster, and that's been a slow thing to build up, right? And so I think that people are going to see a lot of advances on that front over the next year and a half, 2 years as well.
Okay.
That's going to continue to exponentially, hopefully, increase. Because we have some things behind the scenes that's going to really free up Kevin a lot to focus on writing the books that only Kevin can write. As the legendary game designer and storyteller and world creator that he is, right? So that's one of the things that I think is really exciting that we can talk about, and it's less meaty, right?
Yeah.
But
I can tell you, we got some amazing things that when we announce down the road, people, and not next year, but down the road, people are going to go, oh my God. And then in the short term, which everyone already knows, is we're going to be releasing the products that people are waiting for.
Yeah, like Antarctica.
Like, yeah.
Okay. Yep. Well, Brian's back, so nice meeting you, gentlemen. I'm tagging out. I got stuff to do. I'm in the middle of laundry.
Hey, Bear, nice to meet you.
Back, brother. Well,
thank you, Bear.
Talking with Sean, I want to get you guys on my show, so we'll figure something out. But
yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah,
Brian's hour.
All right, thank you so much, Bear. Okay, so no, that is awesome. I like how you guys talk about that dynamic, especially when you've got something like a Kickstarter of this scale going on. Being able to work on that, it's been really fun to watch this process. Having seen you guys with your interviews on Legion of Myth last year. That's like I've actually met Kevin before. He probably doesn't remember it, but it was a different point in my life when I was doing something else, and we're not going to talk about that. But
I don't know what that means, but
you know what?
I'm scared now.
No. It was.
I'm gunning for you, Kevin. Just so you know, I haven't forgotten. I'm coming for you. Won't know when, you won't know where, but it's coming.
No, it was actually really positive. We'll talk about it off screen, but I don't talk about it much.
Thank you, Per.
But yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Per. Man, now I have to get I was in a group.
Sorry,
and I was
mean
doing
to blow your train of thought.
No, it's me having to take that break. It was stupid and anyways, annoying, and Sean actually kind of knows part of it, because I told him about it, but anyway. refocus, get the ADHD back on track. But no, I do think that everything you guys mentioned about what to be proud of for this Redux edition are fantastic things. Getting everyone involved, getting those things going. To kind of tag it into what my next question was going to be is, what do you think the veterans are going to think of the Redux edition?
I think they're going to love it. I mean, there's nothing not to love. I mean, it's essentially the original game that they love, colorized plus history of the making of, a lot of unseen art and concept art. Some new animals, mutant animals,
Updated gear, modern gear section.
All kinds of cool tribute art by legendary gaming and comic book artists. I mean, what is there not to love, man?
Right. Actually, with previously unseen art, like how much of it is going to be stuff that was originally done for TMNT and other Strangeness that didn't end up in the books, or do you have any art that didn't end up in the books?
So what you're going to see is, I think, mostly like the pencil renderings before they were inked, and then some concept sketches, and that's all separate from the tribute art, which there should be 10 to 15 pieces of splash page artwork that are incredible.
Full page per book.
Per book, yeah. And it's
and behind the scenes,
it's going to be good.
Putting some of that stuff into context, right? And
mm-hmm.
This is a concept we had for this, and or a sketch that was done for that, possible cover and things like that. So,
okay, that is one thing that I do think is fun about this, is it's not just reprinting the book. It is like, okay, that's actually ADHD to the rescue. That's actually one question that I had wanted to ask. You had mentioned that I think you said Paramount wanted the Kickstarter this year. Is there a reason?
We both did, but yeah.
Okay, why? Because it seems like you talk about the big long contract negotiation, but then suddenly, okay, let's get this Kickstarter going now. Why not wait till first of the year or something else? Why do we do it this year?
I don't think that's something that we can really talk about. There
okay.
There were a number of the strategic elements behind that.
But some of it was just, I mean, long story short, we both felt this was the time to strike with this product.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're kind of in a new Turtles mania era, right? I mean, it's weird because people will say, "Oh, I haven't watched the new Turtles,"
movie.
Yeah, the new movie, right? But I see Turtles in popular culture and like off, skits and jokes and pranks videos, and I just see the Turtles more than
everywhere.
I don't everywhere.
I don't maybe more than
if I've
ever
ever seen it, and it's they just dedicated in Kevin Pete's hometown.
Yeah.
They just put up a sewer cover and a memorial marker, a historical marker there about the sewer covers with Ninja Turtles on it, right?
I hadn't heard about that, but a Ninja Turtles sewer cover as a memorial. Well,
and a historical marker with this is where the Ninja Turtles were created. I mean,
right.
So the Ninja Turtles have become a really phenomenal thing, and this coming year is the 40th anniversary. And I don't know, this was the time, and the iron was hot and ready to strike, and we both felt that this was the time to launch it.
We're not privy to all things they have planned, but they're planning on doing a bunch of special things for the TMNT 40th anniversary next year.
And part of this means that doing this Kickstarter now, the books are going to be coming out and being released next year.
Exactly.
Right.
Got it. That actually makes a lot more sense. I had kind of assumed that was the case, but I hadn't researched that much. That with it being the 40th anniversary of the Turtles next year, doing the Kickstarter now, theoretically, because we all know how Kickstarter goes, but theoretically delivering everything next year
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
our
that's
goal.
absolutely the plan. Yeah. And the other thing is, I mean, if you're going to do a Kickstarter, you know, you don't want to just sit on something like this. And so doing it before the Christmas, before you're like directly, you know, going up
Competing
against
with the Christmas holiday,
Christmas holiday
New Year's,
and then
or
the
broke from Christmas holiday.
right. I mean, the cool thing is the backer kit will be kind of clutch for a lot of people because then they've got grandma money or they're not spending all their paychecks on Christmas stuff. So in January, February is a great time to upgrade your pledges, right?
Right.
If there's stuff you want now, just get in on the Kickstarter because that's the thing. If you don't get in on the Kickstarter, you can't get the Kickstarter exclusive stuff. You'll be relegated to the basically pre-ordering, and the prices are going to be different too. So, you know, that's
those dice, those miniatures, the dice tower, dice tray. A couple of people commented on it; they loved it.
Yeah.
The card deck, the print sets. You won't be able to get those after
the Mutant Green Edition,
ends.
the variant covers. So
they're going to truly be collector editions.
I think stuff's going to be like instant collector's items.
Yeah, I do too.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely some of those collector covers are going to be that. I don't want all of them, but man, you are making it difficult for me to not buy multiple copies at this point.
I know we had to stop ourselves because we're like,
we had a lot of people.
Shit, for someone to buy everything, it's like $800. We got to cap this.
Yeah, because I mean, there was a lot that you know. We'll just say there was a lot of you know, people offering to do things like variant covers.
Yeah.
So, but you know, we got one from Kevin Eastman and one from Sophie Campbell. I think we're pretty sharp. Yeah. And of course then the for the foil covers, the Kevin and Pete working together is amazing. So
yeah.
Yeah, Max wants to know, how do I explain to my wife I spent $888 on toys and games from one account and another $330 on books from another account? Will you show up at the divorce proceedings on my behalf?
If you fly me in, pay for my costs, I'm there, buddy.
Sounds like your own problem, man.
All right. So next question I wanted to ask. So we talked about the veterans. Obviously, we've got a whole bunch of young folk in chat, you know, asking questions about that. And I say that sarcastically, of course. But so Palladium RPG system is not known for being quote unquote friendly as someone's first role-playing game.
Well, I mean, disagree with that completely.
Yeah.
Give me a second. I'm asking the question.
Okay, that's a strategic pause, not the end of the question.
Yes, it's a strategic pause. So, is there something to the Redux Edition that will make new entrants to the hobby more comfortable?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've gone over a lot of it already. Yeah. Now, one of the things, remember, I figured this out when I was 10. So, you know, now we're a couple of generations later. I get it. And there's different parlance. There's different terms that are common. There's different expectations these days. So, but we are aiming to make all those things easy to slide into. And, you know, again, so for instance, attacks per melee, we're saying actions per combat round, right? Instead of attacks per melee round. There's a lot of little phrasing things that should make it a lot easier, because one of the questions we get or we hear new players will ask a lot is, oh, so with my attack, can I drink a potion or grab an item or run across the room? Yes, but you know, the terms have shifted a little bit. So that there's a lot of little things like that we're trying to make super easy to get into and understand. And then, like we talked about with some of the movement clarifications. So if you want to use your miniatures, Turtles miniatures on your tabletop, making that explicitly clear to jump into.
But TMNT to begin with was an introductory game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was designed that way. It plays that way. And we talked earlier how so many people, their first game, if it wasn't Dungeons and Dragons, it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and other Strangeness.
Yeah.
You know, we sold nearly 200,000 copies of just the basic game. So, you know, this was a hugely popular game that people did not have trouble entering and figuring out. I mean, again, think about it. It's mutant animals, creating mutant animals and combat. That's pretty much what it is, as opposed to Palladium Fantasy or Heroes Unlimited or other games where You've got magic, you've got psionics, you've got, bionics, you've got robotics, you've got super abilities, blah, 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 blah.
And,
it's a pretty
mega damage,
pretty simple upfront game to get into. Always has been, always will be. And by the way, so is Dead Rain, our zombie apocalypse game. People are always marveling. I picked this up and it's so simple, and I'm like, yes.
So
yeah. So and actually this is another question from quite a while back, but I did start to bring it back. So are any of those clarifications going to be applied to other Palladium games?
Well, so the question is, would the clarifications apply to other lines? I mean, if the game master wants them to, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
if you think that if you like the table for movement and you want to use that to cover tabletop movement in your Rifts game, like, knock yourself out. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. As always, all of our games are compatible with each other and easily, merged.
And if your player group decides it's a lot easier to say actions per melee, right, or actions per combat round instead of attacks per melee round, do it, right?
Or not.
Yeah. We're trying to stay true to the classic, but inject some of that the modern, like, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit with updating some terms that are just clearer to modern gamers, right, that use more standard modern language, and then clarifying certain things about initiative, or things like the movement. I mean, it's designed to be dead simple, but that's, of course, as with most game design, it's easy to use is deceptively difficult to create, right?
Right. So to clarify a little, there aren't any plans for, say, Dead Rain Redux Edition or Systems Failure Redux Edition to make them similar to the Turtles Redux.
Nothing
Edition.
like we're not announcing anything like that right now. No.
Okay, got it. So no, and I think that is a good point to make, that when you got into Turtles at 10 years old, or the fact that Turtles was originally sort of that entry point into the hobby. My original phrasing about it not being friendly to new players was just more to kind of bring that in.
No, and I understand what you mean, and a lot of people are coming into the hobby through tabletop gaming now, and that's a big difference, right? Tabletop gaming didn't used to be as big as it is, and a lot of people that came into role playing at the time had at least played some Dungeons and Dragons, and old Dungeons and Dragons had its own sociology and terminology and expectations that were part of the subtext of the entire hobby, but the subtext of that has really shifted, right? With things like Magic the Gathering, new editions of Dungeons and Dragons, tabletop wargaming and tabletop board gaming. A lot of the context around gaming has changed, right? But at the same time, I mean, if you were just in some vacuum, as I was when I got, and I wasn't a full vacuum, because I played D&D with my friend who bought the big red box. We were in middle school, but he played D&D with someone who'd run a D&D, right, or whatever. So there was a little bit of that cultural context, but in general, when I read this book, I didn't know anyone who played Palladium, right? So I came to it completely fresh, and it made a lot of sense to me, right? From my compared to, at least for me, compared to AD&D and West End's Star Wars, right? That was the only other role-playing games, and I played BattleTech. So that's just, again, context can be really important. So, but I think that in general, this game is extremely approachable. And in fact, you see in the comments section, just about everyone half people that comment come in and say, "This is the best role-playing game ever. It was the first one I ever played. I loved it. I'm so glad you're bringing it back by." And they never comment again, right? That's cool, right? Because they're so excited. But this game, so many people found this game to be enchanting and so easy to get into, and so much fun to play with their friends. So I don't think that's changing, and in fact we're doing our best to make sure that it's easier to get into than ever.
Right. Yeah. No. And I'm definitely excited for that. Like I said, this was while I knew of TMNT and other Strangeness when I was a young lad. You know, my entry was Robotech, big stompy robots, all that kind of stuff. So right. I don't have necessarily the historical connection in the same way.
Right.
But being able to see how it's adapted, how it's changed. You know what? We'll make chat a little jealous, but Sean, the little previews that you gave us after Bear's stream last week.
Yeah. That was this week.
Oh my!
That was just a few days ago.
3 days ago.
It was like the evening before Thanksgiving. So.
Right. Yeah. but those, I mean, those do like make me more excited for this game to be able to see that bridge from the past to the future, you know, where things are going.
Right.
You know, so let's see. Real quick, I am going to shout out to chat. If you guys have any questions, obviously I will prioritize super chats, but you know, I am trying to watch and not get too distracted by chat. But if you do want to ask anything specific, please do put it in there. I will be happy to ask that of them. Because we are at about an hour and a half, and they've committed to about 2 hours, so we'll see what happens.
Burn it down, we're gone.
Yeah. Oh crap. Yeah. So another question I wanted to ask, especially since this is a licensed product. So we've obviously had now I forget the name of the superhero book that Kevin licensed.
Justice Machine.
Justice Machine. That's what I knew it was Justice something, but I was going Justice Society, and then I'm like, wait, that's not right. So you've done Justice Society, you've done
Justice Machine, yep,
or Justice Machine. Dang it! That even looks cool.
It is.
Oh, that just has that 80s Palladium look on it too. Great. Okay, so Justice Machine, Ninja Turtles, and Robotech. Am I missing any license?
Macross 2.
Oh, that's true.
Which is not Robotech, right? And there was
Sounds like it.
No. Wormwood.
Oh, Wormwood wasn't strictly a license, but
there's another crossover.
Yeah. Tim Truman and Flint Hendry created it and asked me to do a role-playing game based on it, and yeah.
Is that why Wormwood? I had absolutely no idea.
Yeah, it was created as a concept by Tim Truman and Flint Henry, and I mean, we own it; it's ours, but it's their creation, and if it ever got licensed by a third party, they get a cut. You know, they're basically the co-creators, concept guys, and they did most of the artwork, or a lot of the artwork. Yeah.
I had 40 years now, and I literally had no idea. No offense, Kevin. That was my least favorite Rifts expansion.
Really? I love Wormwood. Wow, that's interesting.
Well, go ahead. Why was it your least?
It was my least favorite because it was the first Dimension book, and it was a whole bunch of, hey, here's all this cool stuff. Guess what? You can't take it into your regular Rifts game.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
that was a strategic error. The concepts are great, and then you're right. You get the Wormwood, and you're stuck there, and it's like, well, gee, that's a lot of fun, Kev.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm not trying to say the quality was bad. It just
it wasn't as interoperable, right?
Yeah.
Right.
If you stick to the canon.
I plan on changing that. So.
Okay. Oh.
We've got some interesting ideas on that. Yeah.
Interesting. Spoiler alert, folks! You'd heard it here first. Anyways, but the question I actually had, so you've gone back after Ninja Turtles to bring it in, and I'd forgotten about Macross 2 because in my head it's Robotech, but it's obviously not. I get that.
Yeah. Some large corporations would disagree.
Oh, and I mean, let's I mean, I don't think we want to start the Robotech Macross, fan fight, here on this stream.
It's the bloodletting seems to have slowed down in the court system. So,
but even that, like, Macross is better, and it's like,
oh, I don't even want to. Yeah,
great. I started with Robotech, so it's my personal whatever. Anyways, not the point. But without getting into specifics, are you guys considering going after more licenses now with the success that you're having from TMNT, or is it more that you would rather stick with your own stuff?
We always consider anything.
Yeah, but we're really focused on
our stuff.
On our stuff. Yeah, I mean, Kevin's just, I mean, again, he's just such a great world builder and storyteller. And I know he kind of feels weird when I say that, but he really is. And so, we're really doing everything we can to enable that, and make sure that he can, again, write books that only Kevin can write. Because I could write a book with the same title on it with the same themes, but it's not going to be the same book, and
right.
And there's no one else that can do that. So no, and we're real, and we have, what's one of the great things about Palladium is a lot of really strong IPs. So that's the number one thing we're focused on. Of course, we are extremely excited about TMNT, and I'm a huge fan. So we're very excited about that. So I'm not trying to say, licenses are stupid or anything like that. And cool, so there's a lot of other companies that do really great with doing lots of licenses.
Yeah, if the right license came around.
But that's not like our modus operandi.
Certainly consider it, if not jump on it.
Yeah. But yeah, again, it needs to be something we're passionate about. We think has the right strategic move. And we're very cognizant of the fact that if we're putting energy into a license, we're not building
our own stuff,
our own IPs, right? Yep. And those have value, and we don't want to leave those behind. So
yeah, because when the dust clears, everything we create for a license belongs to the licensor.
But at the same time, TMNT, and that's obviously this Kickstarter, it really supercharges Palladium, and it helps us. It gives us a chance to really show off a lot of the stuff that we can do. I mean, this is the first time you're going to be getting full color hardcover, really I think very slick stuff.
Yep. And it's a hint of what you can expect in the future.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think there's also an interesting dynamic with the Ninja Turtles, because there are many things that are part of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and other Strangeness that are Palladium properties. Like, I believe it was the Terror Bears that you said or that I caught in a different interview, that those are Palladium properties, and technically Paramount, Viacom, whoever doesn't have access to those.
They couldn't use them in the past, correct? And those were original creations for Palladium Books, like the Terror Bears, Doc Farrell, his henchmen, the Sparrow Eagles, the Rat Pack, all that kind of stuff, correct? So yeah, that's one of the things that I think a lot of fans will really enjoy too. If you're a fan of the Turtles, you can see echoes of these characters in or homages of them in a lot of the IDW Turtles comics, in Ciro Nieli's 2012 computer animated Turtles stuff that went on for 6 years. He had the Dream Beavers because he wanted to do something like the Terror Bears, right? So yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. So Per would like to know, who is your favorite turtle and why?
Yeah, I was going to say, you know.
My favorite turtle, I think, is Leonardo. Just because, especially as he's depicted in the RPG, just because, he's not. He works hard to be a leader, but also he's got katanas and he's really focused on the martial arts side of things, and he's arguably, when it comes to form, like the most progressed, well-versed turtle. So I always thought that was really cool. I always liked the katanas. My favorite color is blue. I mean, it's just it
right.
He rallies the troops. He keeps a cool head. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons I like Leonardo personally. So
Well, and we're 80s and 90s kids when were katanas not cool?
And he's got two, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'm
Raphael.
I'm kind of a team guy, so I kind of think of all four of them as like one unit. Same thing with the original X-Men. If you said who's your favorite X-Men, it'd be tough because I mean Cyclops and Iceman and all the characters were just so unique and cool unto themselves, but they were this team, this kind of family. I always liked sort of the family aspect of the Ninja Turtles, that they were brothers and tight. But we did name our snapping turtle after Raphael.
There you go.
And my daughter, I think if I recall correctly, my daughter made Raphael as her costume one year. I felt so bad for her because it was before Turtles went nationwide. So, and I mean, just before. So she made this awesome costume and she looked freaking great, and the bald cap, and the shell was made out of paper mache. I helped her paint it and stuff, and it looked great. And she'd go up, to trick or treat, and they'd be, "What are you?" "I'm a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, Raphael." And they'd be like, "Okay, you sure you're not an alien?" Because the bald cap. And they're like, "No, I'm a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle." And that poor kid, I mean, every freaking house she went to, no one had a clue. Fast forward to next Halloween, half the freaking kids were one of the turtles, and everyone knew who they were. But poor Monica, she was. That's the problem when you're a trendsetter.
That's very fair. All right, so then Per does also ask another question, which I think is actually kind of interesting. Obviously, we'll get into some of the licensing issues there. But he says, might you guys ever have expansions for crossover Palladium games, splicers plus TMNT, for example, since both use BioE?
I mean, it's possible you could see the rules at some point because the rules are ours, so you could see BioE ported over someplace. In fact, Heroes Unlimited Second Edition includes the growth steps and BioE for creating mutant animals as an option. There's no plans for that, and certainly we could not cross TMNT with riffs or splicers or anything. It'd be a nightmare.
Yeah, that'd be like that'd be super niche and weird. There's nothing that says you can't, like, say, use the new books to go create great mutant animals for your riffs game. You can incorporate them yourselves. Absolutely. Because it was one of those things. I don't know. It's weird how you perceive things. Like when I was a kid and Lone Star came out, and I was like, I went through the whole book, and I was like, oh, it doesn't have rules for building mutant animals. They already had this game. I could have totally said to any of my players, hey, if you want to play a Lone Star, mutant animal, just build them with this and then pick an OCC or whatever. But I was too dumb to do that, and it's weird, the perception, the perception that comes behind stuff like that. Yeah. But I think that's the great thing about playing in the Megaverse. Is it's all designed to be played together if you want to cross it over, but we don't need to. Obviously, no one needed to tell anybody that they could cross Rifts and Robotech. I hear all the time about people that was the core of their campaign. They were part of some strike group or whatever that got rifted to, through some fold system malfunction. They got to Rift's Earth, and they had their Veritech and their Cyclone and blah, 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 blah. And that's cool, right? And so, do it. Yeah.
Well, you could use the mutant animal creation to create DBs for Rifts. You could use it to create aliens and Phase World. You could use it to create aliens.
Anthropomorphic races and Palladium Fantasy.
You got it.
Yeah, no, and that's actually one of the interesting things about that particular question is there doesn't have to be a dedicated supplement for the crossover.
Just mix and match, right? There's nothing wrong with mix and matching with splicers. If you want, hey, more power to you.
Well, most companies, when they do a licensed game, they're not going. they're going to usually come up with something completely different. Whereas Palladium was just like, oh, we have the core. How do we make the core work with this particular property? And so, yeah, you want Splicer Ninja Turtles? Go do it. And at worst, hey, Rifter 86, I believe, or is it 87? The next one.
86 is the next one.
86. Okay. Yeah, Rifter 86 is still not published yet. I don't know. Maybe write a supplement that they could put in Rifter. There you go. So,
yeah, fodder for a Rifter. Yeah.
So, let's see. Flady does say, I think I need to write a Ninjas and Super Spies mod where Kevin and Sean run a secret RPG mafia. Not entirely sure what that is, but we'll go with it.
It already exists. No.
So, this one, I'm gonna highlight this one. Little controversial, but All One says, "Are you worried about the furries becoming your main supporting fan base?"
No, we have a great fan base. If you hadn't noticed, I don't know. I mean, what does that mean, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, like, does it matter if we're all sitting around the table playing the game? You know, I like it. It's one of those things where it's come up quite a few times. I mean, obviously, I've got my biases, I've got my concerns, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what somebody does in that respect. If we're just going to sit around and we're going to talk about Turtles and we're going to talk about the game and we're going to have some fun.
Yeah.
So, which I kind of assumed that's how you guys were, but
yeah.
Nice to just put it out there. So, all right. So next question, Per does want to know, how is Wayne doing?
Wayne's getting better. He gets his first physical therapy on Monday, and he'll also be coming to the office for the first time. Well, he's popped in to help.
Yeah, he's been in a few times.
But he'll be his first regular return. He's still on crutches, but
he's able to drive.
He's getting there, yeah. So he'll be coming back to work this Monday as well.
He's been remoting in.
Yeah, he's been working remotely.
So,
but he's doing better.
It's almost like a writer can work from almost anywhere.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but his primary duties aren't writing. So,
God.
And being an editor for like something like the Rifter is different than writing and designing from whole cloth. So,
right. Okay. Let's see. When your teenager, knows you're doing an interview, but insists on interrupting to bring you this.
That's great. See, it's Turtles are bigger than ever, man. It's crazy.
Well, that's the thing is, you know what? I think the big difference is it survived it's going on its third generation. So you now have generations of people who know and love the Turtle. Dad, maybe even Grandpa, Dad, Junior, and maybe even his kids.
And I think it's becoming more and more common. Like, for instance, like me and you, I mean, I saw the cartoon when I was a kid. And then my dad's best friend, he gave me the graphic novels, which were, they had blood and violence, and so I kind of upgraded into that because I was a big kid now, and but I really loved it. And then that was some of my friends were like, "Hey, this has got art like you like for the Turtles," and it's kind of cool though because and then the movie came out. I still think that first movie was the best movie so far. So. Yeah,
the first live action movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
It really holds up.
People give it grief, but it's just like that's Turtles.
And it was very loyal to the original comics.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think it also kind of straddled the line. It wasn't just like the comics where it's super dark and gritty, but it wasn't the cartoon where it was a cartoon, or let me rephrase that. It wasn't an 80s and 90s cartoon that was an 80s and 90s cartoon.
Right. Yeah. No, it was well positioned to catch the older cartoon fans that were growing up, and also appeal to the comic book fans. I mean, there's a reason it was a blockbuster and did, and holds up to this day. So good storytelling is good storytelling. So
yeah. So let's see, what else can I ask that you guys haven't already answered? I know you're not going to spoil anything about possible future books. My personal theory is that this will catapult new books to come out, but
it's good for Palladium, it's good for book releases. So
yeah. New product.
That was very strategic.
Well, I mean, it's almost like a book publisher needs to publish new books, So,
right, or that
it's true. New book sales,
popularity and visibility. I mean, look, Palladium Books and me and Kevin Eastman. Kevin Eastman gets this all the time, but I mean, we're very happy that Forbes articles and stuff like that are talking about us. I mean, that's good for Palladium in general. So,
yeah.
And the more resources we have, the more we do cool stuff. And we are very focused on, production of books and new products. So,
yeah. So let's see here. I wanted.
And if any viewers aren't familiar with it, we do have a page on our website that talks about what projects are currently in the works, or on hold, or officially canceled. So that can help people out too if they have questions about stuff like that. So project status page on our website.
I was actually getting ready to share this because it looks like I have not pushed us over 1 million yet.
Oh man,
come on, folks! Jeez.
I told you we shouldn't waste our time on this.
Oh man! Are you sure you've refreshed that?
Yes, it did. I just loaded it in a new browser.
Everyone's watching college football right now.
We have some thoughts about that. Yeah,
I mean, I guess nerds watch college football, but
I don't think everybody backing this is a nerd.
No. All Ones does also ask, does pineapple belong on pizza?
No. Yes.
I don't have a problem with it.
I'm in the no camp, but I accept people that are in the yes camp.
Yeah, and yet I bet you approve of fungus on your pizza. Mushrooms.
I'll eat them. Yes.
Fungus. But not a delicious fruit like pineapple. You'll put fungus on your pizza. Fungus grows between your toes,
I have never heard that counter argument before.
Me neither.
All right. This is actually a question. What can we as Palladium fans do to help?
I really appreciate that question. The number one thing is we did Chris Landauer, who is helping us with comms on this project. Really great guy. He put out an image on, I think it was the one before last, one of the recent updates. I think it was update number 3 or 4. But anyways, it's got a great image that you can share that says, I backed it. And, and when you do that, please post the link to the Kickstarter. But, call up your old gaming buddies and be like, hey, I have close friends that didn't know this was happening. Like massive, Palladium and TMNT RPG fans. And, the guy's got 2 kids and he works for, Microsoft's cloud division. Guy's busy, right? And he just didn't know it was happening, right? When I texted him, it was very obvious. I would reach out to another friend. I said, hey, have you seen this? He's like, no, what's going on? He's like, oh my gosh, congratulations, So just that was one thing. If you know anybody, you might be surprised who doesn't know this is happening right now. And we only got like 2.5, 3 days left, right? So let them know so that they can get in there, because getting even $1 in is going to allow you to upgrade your pledge later. And again, I feel bad for people because we're going to inevitably run into somebody a huge fan at Gen Con next year, and they're going to be like, "What? I missed the collector's edition and the miniatures," and it's I guarantee one of you guys is their buddy, and you're not going to tell them.
Yeah.
So
why didn't you tell us about
exactly?
this?
So call up your old buddies, tell them,
spread or email or text. Definitely spread the word. And another thing people can do all the time to help is say positive things about us. One of the things I'm personally really happy about the press coverage we're getting about this is ever since the Crisis of Treachery in 2006.
Yeah.
It was headline news that Palladium Books is in trouble. And then it was like the bottom of page, 93, saying Palladium Books survived. To this day, I'll run into people at a convention or at a comic shop or something. And they'll be like, Palladium Books, didn't you go out of business like 20 years ago? And I'm like, no! Palladium Books, you're back. They're like, we were never gone. So, let people know we're out there. Let people know that you love our games and why you love our games.
They're excited about the projects, and
and that always helps.
Yep.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That's one reason that I did want to get you guys on here. I've had a lot of fun watching your other interviews. Obviously recently I've gotten to interact with Sean a little bit, and see the absolute passion there. Obviously, like you said, the issues in 2006, issues with So I actually reached out to an old friend of mine about the Kickstarter, or actually about the interview, asking about the questions. And to put it diplomatically, I'll say he's still bitter about previous Kickstarters. But he also didn't see the Titan Robotics Kickstarter.
Right. A lot of people missed that one,
I missed that one. I'll be honest. I don't want to say I was in his same spot, but I was in kind of an in-between spot, related to things Palladium at that time. The last year I think has definitely changed. I know it's changed my perspective. So
and I get it. I'm bitter and disappointed about all that. It is what it is.
Right, but I think that's one of the things, like looking at Titan Robotics and the positive response from the fans to that.
And it was delivered with bonus material, right? Very quickly. So, and everyone seems to love the book and the art, and so very happy to have done it. But yeah, and this isn't, again, this isn't my first rodeo. So I also did stuff previously, Kickstarters previously with Pinnacle, and still working with them, to help shepherd the Rifts for Savage Worlds. But yeah, there's a lot of positive things to say about Palladium, I think, and a lot of people really enjoyed the new layout. A lot of the updates that Kevin and I have been bringing to the table in the new books, and so if that's another thing. Is just share general Palladium. If you really enjoyed this, you really enjoyed that, let people know. You had a good experience with Titan Robotics. Yeah, let people know. You're excited about the updates, or you're getting the word out, right? Yep. So that's the best thing you can do for Palladium is just spread the good words.
And I want to say, take advantage as fans. Take advantage of the Christmas surprise package offer. That's an awesome deal that we love to do for our fan base and have been doing for 25 years.
And people love it.
I did 3 last year.
Oh, remember when we talked about? There was a guy that I thought he did like 9 or 12. How many did he do?
It was 24.
24.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be honest. Right now, I'm trying to figure out how I can do like 1 a month until
Well, clearly this guy was rebuilding or building his collection, and he had some money, and it was a little bit funny because the first order was 9 grab bags, and then the next order was like 6 or 7, and then the next order was like 4 or 5, and then the last one was like 3. And you can see, I mean, I'm like, oh, poor guy's budget is running low.
I think he was having to be much more careful with the lists he was writing too.
Right, no, exactly. I mean, so I'm absolutely in the same spot where like I was stupid and got rid of all of, like, I had most of the Rifts collection, but I'm like, oh, I'm never gonna do anything with this. Well, it's taking up room. You've got kids, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, let's get rid of it. And
well,
now,
I understand you're moving house, or we've tons of people, you know, it just got damaged in some flood or something.
Oh, if I had prepared myself, I would bring out my original Robotech, book. That is, let's just say that saying it's seen better days would be an understatement.
Well loved.
And yet you're saying yet you love it and still have it. So
right, yeah. Well, that was the thing. Like, it's like, okay, I'm gonna get rid of Rifts, but I'm not getting rid of Robotech. Can't do that. So, and then I've even damaged them since then, but that's a whole separate issue. But yeah, no, it's like that is one of the things that seeing that Palladium has continued to be here. Like, actually, is it? No, we're about 45 years. How old?
42. 43 next year.
43. Okay, got it. So we are closer to 40 than 50. Got it.
Oh, yeah.
I am not. But but no, like seeing that consistency is one of the things that is really exciting. So all right, so we're at 2 hours. My brain is like, usually around the 2 hour mark is where my brain just starts going all sorts of directions. So I think now would be a good time to end it before I start sounding like an idiot. But is there anything else you guys that we didn't bring up that you think needs to be mentioned? Anything you just want to just like state bluntly, this is a horrible interview. We're never coming back. No.
Well, that's obvious.
No.
Well, and you said, before I start sounding like an idiot, and I was like, too late. No, no. We really enjoyed the interview. We really appreciate you taking the time and the fans for interacting as much as they have been, and that's I think that's the thing I have to say is just the fans are so excited about this. And as you said, I mean, anyone who has Palladium games, if you get rid of them or something happens to them, you always want them back because they're super high quality. There's so much depth of story building, world building, and storytelling, and characters that and this is the same thing. I mean, this is a redux of something that just has captivated so many people's imaginations. I hope you get in now, and so that you can get the best deals possible. I mean that genuinely as a fan. Because a lot of this stuff, I hate. I just want people to know, like, please don't be kicking yourself because this is going to be instant collector's items because the exclusives truly are exclusives. And they're beautiful, and we're really pulling out all the stops. And just thanks everyone for the support. I mean, 1 million. We're about to bust 1 million sometime, probably today, this evening, or early in the morning, and that's crazy, right? And the support has like echoed to all corners of the internet and fandom, and that's been really, really cool. Because I'm a big fan of this Kevin guy, and also Eric Wujcik and Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird's work, and Jim Lawson and everybody else that was involved with this. So just thanks again to the fans, and just keep on keeping on. We really appreciate everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I've said it 1 million times. Palladium fans are the best in the world. You guys are just great. So thanks, and spread the word and stay awesome.
Awesome. Yep. Okay, so any other appearances you're going to be doing in the next few days?
We're going to be on Legion of Myth tomorrow, and that's the.
You sure? I thought that was getting rescheduled. No.
Yeah.
Kidding, folks. Tomorrow.
we give them a hard time. But yeah, I think that's the only thing that we've got scheduled. I mean, if anyone else out there really wants to chat with us and we're dying to chat,
Yeah, reach out.
Reach out.
We were supposed to put a couple of videos up on our own YouTube channel,
Yeah.
but I think those are still in editing phase.
Yeah. So keep your eye out for those. And we've been kicking around the idea of doing like a countdown, but I don't know if we will. We'll see a live countdown on our YouTube channel, but we'll see. We probably will. And
if you want some help with that, I think a few people who would be willing
right.
to jump in. So
well, I appreciate that. I actually, I don't want to like bother people, but Chris Landauer jumped in on us to help us out with this, and we're really appreciative of his professionalism and hard work.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know him, I've been working with him for years. He's the marketing and social media manager for Pinnacle. Yeah. And so again, our friends at Pinnacle are awesome as always, and really glad that he reached out to make that offer. But at the same time, it's like, this is blown up beyond anything that we felt safe expecting. You know what I mean? It's gotten so big, and so that's been really exciting. So yeah, maybe we will talk to one of you guys about pick Bear. Bear is fun. Okay. Maybe we'll do that, Bear. Let's email and chat.
That wasn't. Oh, actually, yeah. Bear did put that up there. I was like, there's a bunch of people saying that.
So I mean, yeah, but let's chat. Let's all chat and decide what the best thing to do is do. Or do you guys want to join us on our stream on the Palladium channel or something?
I meant on the Palladium channel. That seems appropriate to close out the stream. I'm just saying
that's how I feel. It would be really great to have that on our YouTube channel. We want to be doing more with YouTube in the future, so that would be something cool to have there for posterity. But yeah, I would love to have you guys on and participating as well, because the more the merrier. And this really is about the fans. So having fans on the show with us is cool. So,
but just not hour 24 of a Veterans Day stream.
That was so funny. I meant to come on for like an hour, but I saw while I was on there for the Veterans Day stream that Legion did. I was just like, wow, I saw the people donating, and I just didn't want to abandon the fans. And as a veteran myself, I was just like, oh, I can't click off now. Everyone's so excited, and it's going so well, and people were being so generous to donate for the cause for Wounded Warrior Project. So no, we won't do something crazy like that, but we'll see about closing it out for sure.
Awesome. So, all right. Well, everybody, if you have not yet backed the Kickstarter or picked up your Christmas surprise box, I have finally added those links to the description. So absolutely go click on those, check those out. Kevin, Sean, both of you, thank you so much for being here today. This, an old school nerd who has been following it for so many years now. It's been an absolute treat. You've been wonderful guests. Thank you so much for answering my questions and putting up with my nonsense. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end it. Otherwise, I will continue to rant and ramble, but we'll say our proper goodbyes off stream. So everybody, thank you so much for being here. And
Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. And we will